We cannot effing believe it, Tim. To quote the great Fernando Alonso. I don't know if anybody else has heard that radio call, but boy, oh boy, he was heated at the end. And driver of the day. God bless him. Fernando Alonso, everybody. We always love Fernando. Okay, so lots to talk about today. We're going to start with McLaren. We're going to go to Mercedes. We're going to go to the heat stuff as well and how that all worked. And then, Tim, you and I are going to talk about what happened with Fernando Alonso at the end of the race. So let's start with McLaren, who, Tim, it's interesting. They finally lock up the Constructors Championship, which I think they should have done last time. But they got it done. Not exactly like the prettiest way to do it, not the result they wanted. But I have to say, sometimes to win a championship, it's just about grinding out the days that don't go your way. And they certainly did that today. Got a little too close in terms of grinding. But let's just talk about the fact that this is their second world championship in a row. And that is a very, very big deal for a team that was basically a non-player for about 15 years.
Yeah, it's their, I believe it's like their second back-to-back, it's their first back-to-back Constructors Championship since, I believe it's 1991.
Wow.
I believe that's what the date is. And if people think, if I'm wrong, just, toss the correct.
Yeah, 88 to 1991.
Yeah, so there you go. So, I mean, pretty incredible to see. I mean, we'll get into the Piastri Norris stuff in a minute, but pretty amazing to see the turnaround, Adam, from this team. If you go back to 2020, when, I mean, a lot of us thought that this team was going to go belly up, right? Like they had financial issues, weren't really too sure if they were even going to make the grid during the COVID year. And then all of a sudden, they got a little bit of an injection of cash, able to keep their head above water. And then Zach's able to find some partnerships that really helped them a lot along the way. And then you have that restructuring from Andreas Seidel leaving, going to Alfa Romeo Sauber, and Zach promoting Andreas Stella from within, which was a crucial move. And Stella taking over, and his time, like working behind the scenes at McLaren, knowing the talent that they have there, and understanding that they haven't really been utilizing that talent, and taking those people and putting them in the spots where they're going to excel, allow them to be creative, not punish them for being creative if it doesn't go right.
Yeah.
And then I think also, Adam, is the influx or the brain drain from Red Bull Racing, taking Rob Marshall out of that team, bringing him to McLaren. He's sort of the mastermind behind, two of their cars for sure, this season and last. Mm-hmm. And then you've got, obviously, the addition of the drivers. Lando, obviously, being brought up through their system, and Zach going and poaching Oscar from Alpine. Just have done a incredible job at sort of rebuilding this team from, one of the worst on the grid to now the best. It's a remarkable turnaround if you think about it in the short amount of time. I mean, if you look at a team like, Sauber, Williams, look how long it's taken for those teams to be really competitive again, like competitive in terms of like punching into like the top three. It's for Williams. I don't even remember, 2014, I think was probably the last time they were
last time I think they were on a podium. Yeah.
Oh, well, last time they were on a podium was just recently, obviously, in Azerbaijan with Carlos Sainz. But in terms of the constructors standings, right?
I'm Googling it right now.
It's been a long time. I think it's like 2014, 2015, in and around in there when Williams was like probably in the top three. And then they absolutely, there you go. Then they absolutely just dropped right out, right? Like they absolutely sewered themselves. And so I think like when you take a look at how hard that McLaren has had to work from where they've had to come back from, pretty impressive story. And I'm interested to see where they go for next season. Can they carry this momentum through to next year?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the thing, right? They figured it out, and then now the regulations are changing. And that is the joy of Formula One, my friend. But I think I definitely think that, back-to-back constructors titles will make them happy. Zach Brown, the rumor is, and I don't know how true this is, Tim, and I don't think there'd be any way anybody could confirm this, but the rumor is that his bonus for winning the Constructors Championship was $50 million last year.
Oh, really?
So if that's true,
no way.
If that's true, you don't think so?
I don't believe that. No way. That's like more than Max Verstappen. Like that's more than. Well, no, I shouldn't say more than Max Verstappen. Verstappen's probably getting more than 50 million.
He's getting
a year.
like 100.
However,
he's got to be. Yeah.
However, though, Adam, like for a CEO, no way. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I mean, listen, I there's no way to confirm it. That's the rumor, but I feel like Zach's probably pretty happy. I would imagine that the drivers, Oscar and Lando, would have some sort of provision in their contract that would bonus them some money for winning the team championship. Right?
Everybody,
you want to incentivize that.
Yeah, everyone on that team is getting a bonus. Every single employee who works at that team is getting a bonus. And that includes Zach Brown, that includes Andrea Stella, that includes everyone. And that's why it's so, it was always so imperative for McLaren to make sure, and when I say McLaren, Zach Brown and Andrea Stella, to make sure that their two drivers' relationship did not become contentious before they won the Constructors Championship, because it was so important to them because of those bonuses as well.
Right.
And also they wanted to win the thing, right? So there's that as well. But however, it was very important for them to make sure that driver pairing didn't really piss each other off, and they couldn't really go and compete for a Constructors Championship because they're too busy fighting each other. They were able to make this work. So,
Tim,
that's been the interesting part.
Kind of the relationship went off track
today.
Several laps before. In fact, the entire race before first lap, turn one, they come together and Lando's trying to avoid Max and has to elbow out Oscar, and Oscar's not happy about it. Now, there have been so many hot takes. Like, I logged onto my TikTok before I got in here.
I bet you did.
And somebody was like, McLaren has just created a huge problem with Oscar Piastri. He had a weird accent. I was like, what is going on here? And he's like, he's going to leave the team. And I'm like, okay, all right.
Sounds
so
like
Oscar,
Terrence and Phillip.
Yeah, it did. It was like, I think obviously, we live in a headline culture, a clickbait culture. But
yeah,
and I think there's some goodness to that. But when I look at what happened with Lando and Oscar, and I, as a McLaren fan, break this down, and people are like, oh, the papaya rules, blah, 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 whatever. The guy that I think nailed it is Jenson Button. Because Jenson Button said, that's just racing, man. Mm-hmm. Or at least that's my opinion of it. I am just Adam fan at home who's been to one Formula One race in person in my entire life. Watched a lot of them.
You watch enough, though, Adam. Like, you can have an opinion.
To me, racing is a bit rough, and I understand why Oscar's mad. I'd be on the microphone telling the garage, "Hey guys, like, what the hell is that?" But when you're in the car, there's no way for you to see everything that's going on, and so you see their social media posts later. Oscar seems a fair bit more relaxed, and I know it's social media, and you shouldn't believe everything you see in social media or whatever. But I don't know. To me, it feels like, Tim, we are trying to find an issue with papaya rules where it's actually worked out pretty well. People are like, this will never work. It's terrible. It sucks. They just won 2 straight championships. I mean, it's the beginning of October. The season doesn't end until December. It works, and it's working. And yeah, Oscar's going to be mad if Lando runs him out, but I feel like that's kind of normal. Don't you think? Am I wrong on that?
No, absolutely not. I mean, you're also entitled, to your opinion. You watch a lot of F1 as well.
If I was stupid, I would expect you to be like, "Hey, that's pretty stupid. I see why you feel that way, but that's pretty stupid."
I mean, no, look, it's okay. I posted this on my social media because I did it for TSN before we came on to do this, and essentially the question was it fair, like what Lando Norris did on Oscar Piastri at Singapore this weekend? Was it fair? Mm-hmm. And I look at it as fair. It's racing. It's good, hard racing. Hey, I may be the the little one on all of this, but I enjoy good, hard racing, Adam. Like I do. I enjoy it. And so I was like that as a driver. I didn't mind having to rub wheels when you had to rub wheels. And so that sort of physicality of the sport, I don't necessarily mind. However, when we talk about papaya rules, we don't really know exactly what papaya rules are, right? Don't run into your teammate is probably one of the ones that I've heard Andrea Stella say. Mm-hmm. And what happened today was the teammate ran into the other teammate.
Yeah.
So if that is a part of papaya rules, didn't he just break papaya rules? It's a low percentage move in a corner where we have seen in the past drivers pull off moves. However, it includes banging wheels. Sometimes drivers eating the wall, like Esteban Ocon did in 2018.
Or George Russell popping a wheel off the wall in qualifying. Right?
There you go. Well, I can't remember what year that. Well, George hit a different wall doing a different thing back in 2023. He also hit the wall on Friday, but that was at the penultimate sort of corner.
Yep.
But in turn 3, Adam, like where Lando made his move, we've seen it being at the opening laps of a race, a very low percentage move. Always, right? He saw that there was a gap, so he went for it. But then when we take a look at the papaya rules, did he break them?
I mean, we don't have Charlton Heston coming down from on high with the commandments, the papaya commandments above his head. So what do we got, Tim? Did he break them? Did he?
That's what I would like to know. I would like to know what exactly the papaya rules entail with the McLaren racing rules, because everybody is signed up for it. Zach Brown, Andrea Stella, both the drivers, Mark Webber got him on board. Not too sure how they managed to pull that off, but they did. So good job. And I'm sure Mark is giving some of the business, back at the back at the motorhome, telling them, giving them a piece of his mind at the end of this one.
Yeah.
I'll be curious. I want to be a fly on the wall during their team debrief when they have it, and they have to talk about this because, Andrea Stella did say that is something they will be talking about, and they will air this conversation, and they will hear from both the drivers and what are they saying. So I will be fascinated, and I am most definitely going to follow up on that when I get to the next race. And if I'm not going to do it, I'm pretty sure someone else is going to get in there and do it because you kind of have to know.
Yeah. I am curious about that. And I wonder, Tim, like we're looking at the United States GP in 2 weeks. If there are any hurt feelings, like there's that shot of Oscar Piastri that's going viral. He's in his car. You hear Zach Brown come by. Oscar, I know it's a tough race.
Out.
Yeah.
Pulls the radio out.
Does he do it on purpose, do you think?
That's a good question. So I watched it back a couple times. And
he pulls the radio out. You hear Zach, and then you don't hear anything. Now,
the issue I have with it is I haven't got, I didn't watch it on F1 TV. It's a video that's been doing the rounds on social, and I saw it, and I was like, is that for real? Did he? Is that real? Am I watching something that's not real right now? And that's where I kind of am right now with it. So I don't want to give a full opinion. However, if he did do that, if that actually did happen, I mean, boy, that is not good.
Yeah, it's rough.
Not good. Not good. That's a driver who is, we heard Oscar on the radio. We don't normally hear Oscar get upset. He was pissed. Mm-hmm. He was pissed. I never heard Piastri that upset over the radio during a race.
Well, and I guess the other part of it is, could it be that this is the first time we've seen Oscar have, in this window, obviously when he started, they had frustrating races, but these are really the first 2 frustrating races of the season for him, right? could that just be a little bit of I'm pissed because Max is going to finish ahead of me, Lando's going to finish ahead of me, George is going to finish ahead of me, and guess what? They're the three people chasing me, and I know it's not really much of a championship race when it comes to say George Russell, but Max is still in the hunt, 273. Lando Norris has got 314, Oscar Piastri at 336. This can change race to race, especially within McLaren. I feel like there's a ton of pressure that goes along with that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Adam. Like, I think that's part of that frustration that you hear Oscar over the radio. Part of it is probably like when you get hip checked like that. I mean, in a race car, it does hurt. Like that actually, it may not look like it. You're like, they're just in a car. It looks fine. But actually, like your head's getting slammed like from side to side to side. Your body's getting slammed too. You're up in the air, and when you land, you're landing right on your backside. Like it hurts.
Right.
And as a driver, you're already filled with like adrenaline, and it's very stressful, and it's hot, and you're sweating buckets, and you're being aggressive. Emotions, it goes through the roof, right? When you get hit. And so part of it is that for sure. The other part of it is like you had said, Adam, you're sort of bleeding points to your competitors, and seeing how good Max has been, especially Max, since the Italian Grand Prix, Azerbaijan, and now in Singapore, and you're just giving away chunks of points to this guy. That's going to definitely put a lot of pressure on you. You're just adding more pressure to yourself than you probably don't need to. If he just qualifies a little bit better, then he doesn't really have to deal with any of this stuff, but he didn't. So this is what he has to deal with. So I think, Adam, you make a really good point when, we talk about the drivers' championship battle and, giving up points, because I think for McLaren and specifically Oscar, I think they knew that this weekend had to be a solid one, because this was a track that more suited McLaren, what they do, how competitive their car is. We saw how competitive they were here last year. I mean, Lando absolutely crushed everybody at this track last year. And so expecting the same this season, this time around, and we never got it. Like Mercedes brought some new front wing elements. They understood their car a little bit better. They got it into a sweet spot. George was amazing. And for Max, new front wing on that Red Bull.
Yeah.
So they haven't turned off development.
Yeah.
Max was again, like incredible. He probably could have gotten pole if it wasn't for Lando in front of him. And there you have it. You now have two other teams that you've let come back into this championship, especially one driver in particular. And so I think for Oscar, all that stuff just sort of it as much as he's cool, calm, and collected, I still think like stuff still gets to you. He's still an athlete. You still get succumb to all of these other things like the rest of the athletes do, right?
Right. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to add on McLaren? Because I feel like there's a lot being made of this, but I feel like it's also just not that big of a deal. Like I don't know. It's a big deal, but it's not hard. Like, is it a big deal between the two of them? Like, are we worried about, like, now I feel like you just let them go, right? Like, all right, boys, like, go get it.
Okay. Well, let's go through that, because what are the things that are really going to hurt them by just letting them go and race each other
into each other?
Hard. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's going to affect the relationship for the following season.
Yeah.
It's also going to affect the inner team dynamics for the next season and possibly the season after that. Because obviously McLaren doesn't want to get rid of either one of these drivers. Mm-hmm. Because they're top talent. You can't so they're trying to find ways of allowing them to race each other without causing the team any major dysfunction or disharmony. But the more sometimes I think, Adam, the more you sort of tinker with it and you get too involved, the more you create more problems. And that's kind of what this is starting to look like. And I rewind it back to Monza. Yes. And them telling Oscar to, hey, move over for old Lando there. He's coming through. We botched his pit stop. You gotta let him come through. And Oscar's like, well, what? Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like you're getting involved in the drivers' championship at that point. If anything, I think like just do what Toto Wolff did. Like, here's a contract, sign it. You guys crash, you pay for the damage.
Yeah. I like that. I like it.
Well, honestly, though, as a driver, you're going to think about that because it's millions of dollars. So
do you take Tim a race by race approach here? So we go in every weekend. We go, listen, whatever driver qualifies higher, that's the one we are supporting first and foremost.
Well, what happens if one driver gets a better start?
Well, okay, so then what do you do?
That's the question, right? Because now you don't have to worry if you're the drivers. You don't have to worry about the constructors' title anymore because you've already won it.
Right.
So that takes that part of the equation, out of it. So now it's just two drivers. They don't have to worry about winning the constructors' title. We already won it. We need to win the drivers' title. One of us has to win it. We may not get another shot next year. Who's gonna be the one who's gonna kick the tires on this one and get this thing going? Because I think today was that. Today is that first sort of sign of this is where it could sort of go, because you always look back for that point where things start, and this would be that moment. Right.
Oh, Tim. Okay,
well, I mean, this is racing. This is racing. This is what it's all about. And look,
what's Mark Webber telling Oscar Piastri tonight?
Oh, I would love to know. That's definitely the question, right? Like, is he? You can't. If you're Oscar, I don't think you can afford to be overly aggressive with anyone because you have Max who's hanging around now.
Yep. And
then again, you also have other teams who are going to play a factor. Like you're going to have, I'm sure like when we get to Coda, that's not a McLaren track, or shouldn't be a McLaren track. They don't feel it's going to be a track that suits them. That's probably going to be something more in the Red Bull territory, and also maybe Mercedes, and also maybe Ferrari if they can figure it out. That would be sort of those other teams who could get involved. So now you're going to have points being taken away from you if you're Oscar Piastri. Yep. So what do you do, Adam? How hard do you race your teammate?
You got to race. I mean, listen, you're going for the championship. You race them as hard as you can. You have to.
Happens? Well, okay, fair enough. But what happens if there's contact? And
I think what happens if you're 85 and you're lying in bed and you're going over for the millionth time? What if I had just raced a little harder?
Fair point.
That is, you have to look at it like that. Like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I have to say, to me, of the two drivers, Oscar Piastri has the edge this year in terms of how he has executed.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean Lando doesn't have the talent. I think people like to pick on Lando. That's not what I'm saying. This is
Oscar's the one who's executed. Like, he's the one who's executed.
We started the episode with McLaren have not won back-to-back titles since 88 through 91. 88 through 91. And you think about the drivers that went through there, and I think three specifically who are world champions, not at McLaren, but they had Fernando Alonso, they had Jenson Button, they had Lewis Hamilton. In the late 90s and the early 2000s, they had some unbelievable drivers. And Mika Hakkinen, obviously. I'm just looking at this and I'm going, you don't get a shot at this ever again, maybe, right?
Yep, that's true. Yes.
Why are you really worried about what anyone says to you? Get out there and you got to race. And yeah, don't slam into your teammate because that just hurts you. But you gotta go for this now. You've taken care of the team. The guys in the garage have their bonuses. You got to take care of your legacy now. You do. And it's tough to put on guys in their, Lando's like probably 25, 26. Oscar's in his early 20s. Like, dude, that's a lot of pressure to put on these guys. But what did you give up your childhood for?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Correct.
You gave it all up.
Yep.
So anyway, that's just my thought. That's my rant for today.
Great rant. It was like, I agree with you, Adam. I really do. And so my question is, if you're Oscar Piastri, what are the risks you're willing to take? Because some of those risks, Adam, are going to be maybe a DNF. And if it's a DNF, what happens to Verstappen?
Yep.
See, these are the things that he's got to think about.
Oh, man.
Like, he could race Lando hard, and he can race Max hard, but how hard? That's the question. Like, is he willing to take a bit of contact, having to stop for a new nose cone while, either Lando or Max runs away with the race? And then Lando's only 22 points behind. A win is 25.
Yeah.
And Oscar doesn't collect any points one race. That's it. He's lost the championship. It's over. Well, not it's over,
safe?
But
safe.
That's the question. That is what he is going to have to think about moving forward. He's in a spot where I feel he'll have to make some tough decisions.
Okay.
That's what I feel.
Okay.
Well, I guess put yourself in his boots. I know we're not, Oscar Piastri, obviously. Yeah. But if in this moment you were in his position, what would you do?
Everything.
But Adam, what if everything means like you give up the lead in the championship?
You can't. Well, it can't be that. It's got to be everything to win it. Right? It can't be, but you have to. You have to do this. Remember, too, like if you're Oscar Piastri or you're Lando Norris, you have a big career beyond just this season, right?
Yeah.
Not only at McLaren, but ultimately no driver spends their entire career at one team, at least most of the time.
Yep.
So yeah, like you need to be looking out for 28-year-old and 32-year-old you. If you're a world champion, that gives you a lot of leeway on staying in the sport long after your time has come, and making a pile of money doing it. I think you gotta consider that stuff. I don't know, Tim, that the stakes are so high.
I know that's what I'm saying.
They're just crazy. Yeah. So
this is what I'm getting at.
We'll leave the McLaren discussion. We got to talk about George Russell, and we got to talk about Mercedes. And this is a hot weather race, a humid race, and we'll talk about the whole cooling system stuff later. And we didn't think that this car would perform this well. And it seems like Mercedes, right at the end of this godforsaken rules for them, like this 22 to 26, they just hated it. They figured it out. The car seems to be in really, really good shape. And you look at how they did today, both drivers doing well, George Russell winning. Can we talk a little bit about what got him there? Obviously the good qualifying helps, and he's been good on this track before, but what else was it, Tim? What was it about that car that was so special this weekend?
I think they were just able to get it in the right window, like in terms of the balance of the car. And that's one of the things with these regulations and these cars. It's really hard for them to get the tires right, the floor right, the ride height level right, the downforce levels right. And that kind of takes all of these things to come together for a team to have really good, strong success. And add on top of that, the driver needs to be, peak form for them to exploit it. And if you look at McLaren, they just know how to nail it because they really understand their car and they understand what it needs at every single track they go to. So they're able to really get to the setup and get the drivers up to speed and going right away. Where when we look at Mercedes, it's taken forever. Like this has taken way too long, like for them to sort of really dial this in. But they've been working really hard on the rear of the car, and it really looks like they've nailed that for this particular weekend. Now we have to see if they can do it moving forward. They also brought that new update that I was talking about, the new front wing, to this race, and that's actually something we should chat about just a little bit, because if you're, and I don't want to bring this back to McLaren, but I think we kind of got to just a little bit, but because if you're McLaren, they've turned the taps off of development. Mercedes and Red Bull, they didn't. They kept developing this car. Their car is done, and they've come to understand them. So, as we move forward, they're going to be competitive teams, and they will play a factor in races, especially Max. It's Mercedes that, if we circle it back around, they're the ones that are going to need to figure out the consistency of this. Can they pull this off again? And that's going to be the question. We're going to go to Coda. That's going to be a track that maybe might suit them. But for Singapore in particular, Adam, I think for George in the driver preparation, he was incredible. He knew every inch of that track. He knew every little bump, every little manhole cover, that he knew that if he put the car on that manhole cover at 200 and whatever kilometers an hour in a certain position, he knew he was going to have trouble. So to figure, to have that in your memory bank, first of all, to put together the qualifying lap, and I said this on our post-qualifying podcast that we had done on Saturday, like the amount of steering wheel changes that he was making within his pole winning lap is remarkable. He's moving brake bias from the rear to the front before each corner. How does, even though some of these things are programmed, he still has to get to the program. He still has to cycle through it on the wheel, and he still has to remember what the bias is set at for each and every corner that he's going to. That is a next level type of understanding for what you're doing. Remarkable stuff from George Russell this weekend. I'm still surprised we haven't had this contract announcement yet.
It's still not done. You're right.
He's been fantastic. And I mean, if you're Toto Wolff, you're gonna have to give him what he wants, because you cannot let this guy not have a deal for next year. And I know you want Max maybe in the future, but
Max isn't Red Bull next year.
Yeah, if you want to win a championship next year, you're not doing it with Kimi Antonelli, not yet, anyways. But you will do it with George Russell, because he is in that condition now. He was incredible, Adam.
You know what, Tim? I had forgotten about that George Russell deal. That's really interesting. I guess they're going to have to kick those media days down. I can't do that many anymore.
And then also,
what a story, right? What a story from George.
Man, yeah, incredible. This was a track, you had said, he's had his issues with crashing in 2023. He had some, demons to battle out there, because that affects the confidence every time you go back. And then he crashes again in free practice 2 on Friday. And again, you lose a little bit of confidence with the car. Because at the time he wasn't too sure why they had crashed. Right. And that's a little off-putting for a driver. I mean, obviously, once you learn and figure out why it happened, you're able to get back up to speed and get going again. But the fact that it happened still dings the confidence. Yeah. And then try to put yourself back together for free practice 3, which, I don't know, what did he get? He got 12 laps in, maybe? Yep. And then go out and stick it on pole is...
Pretty cool.
It's pretty good.
Pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
He's the ultimate guy that everybody doubted, and he succeeded despite that. And he has been extraordinarily reliable. He had a great start to the season. Had a couple races he probably didn't love in the middle of the season, but he has come right flying back. Do you think we get an announcement before Circuit of the Americas?
I would.
It makes sense to, in the United States, there's a big spotlight on it.
For sure. I was just going to say, I don't know this for a fact. I don't know anything about when it'll get done, because it does sound like there are a lot of moving pieces behind the scenes to try and get it done, get it across the line. I would say if you're going to announce it at any time, heading into the USGP would be the best, because like you had said, Adam, a lot of eyeballs on you at that time. A lot of the teams like to make their big announcements. I mean, we're going to probably be getting some big announcements as we get closer to Circuit of the Americas, the USGP. But yes, I would say if we're going to get it at any time, I think it would have to be before the USGP. If not, then I'm not too sure when. I'm not too sure what would make sense.
Well, I am very, very curious, Tim, about that one. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and I think also, Adam, like one other thing I felt that George had done really well in the race was not only the start, but controlling the first stint. It was the hard tire stint that impressed me the most, especially towards the end, because you could see that the pace was starting to drop a bit, and I think for George, he stayed in it, and he didn't let himself get too flustered when he knew that the tires were starting to come, the performance of the tire was starting to come down. And sometimes you kind of get in the back of your head, like, are the other two guys going to catch up with me? Kind of thing. Like, is my gap big enough? Can I make it bigger? Do I risk going any faster? If I do, what happens then? Like, what happens if I ding the wall as I'm trying to push? And so a lot of the times, like, your brain will go in those directions. And I think for George, just doing a great job of staying in the moment, in doing what he had to do. And then also not really, when he had a bigger gap, not sort of letting yourself get too lazy with the concentration. Like, okay, I can relax a little bit right now. I've got an 8-second lead. I've got a 10-second lead. I can, just calm my mind a little bit and just put in some okay laps. Not for George, because I followed his lap tracker, and he was every single lap. He was just absolutely on it. Like, very impressive performance, Adam. Like, just
wow, good for him.
Yeah,
good for him, and well deserved, and in a contract year no less. That's pretty great. Good for him.
Yeah, like he really watching it. Like he really, I know it's easy to say, but it's like he really wanted it. Like the concentration that he had to get to and stay with for that length of time, while just getting the absolute crap beat out of you inside that car on that track with all the heat. Yeah, it was a great performance by him.
Pretty intense.
Yeah.
I wonder if the negotiations gotten to the point where there will be no more sleepovers at Toto's house for George Russell.
That's what I was wondering.
Do you not wonder that? I wonder that.
I do.
I want to know.
I do. I want to know, since like they have a really good relationship.
Yeah.
And I think when you're dealing with something that is, I think at this moment, there's some real sticking points.
Yeah.
It's like, where does that friendship go from there?
Right.
Because I think like George is like, I mean, partially George isn't negotiating the whole thing, but he's got to have his input, and he's got to stand by the things that he wants. Mm-hmm. I don't know how the two of them handle it.
Right. Well, we'll see how that all goes. Now, Tim, let's talk a little bit about the fact that the FIA declared Singapore a heat hazard due to extreme conditions, humidity, temperatures. Inside cockpits are always brutal at this race. They had cooling systems, and I want to know how they worked. What was the feedback? Did you hear anything?
I know some of the drivers, like Lando, didn't take it. Like he didn't use the cooling system for this race, and there were a couple others. Like Max didn't take it either. Mm-hmm. He also didn't use it. And Adam, like one of the reasons why some of the drivers didn't use it was the fact that if it fails, mm-hmm. then essentially it's like circulating hot water like through your vest. Oh. So if it has a dry ice system,
okay,
cools the water. The water then goes through the hoses that are embedded into the shirt, and it's supposed to keep you cool. But I think for some drivers, they felt that, well, it didn't keep me cool for long enough. And then other drivers were worried because they've heard horror stories, and so have I actually, of these things failing. And when they fail, basically the heat from the track, the engine, it warms the water up because it's so close to it and literally shoots it right through those pipes. And not only are you dealing with all the ambient temperature, the track temperature, the engine temperature, the temperature obviously coming from the car circulating in hot air, and that hot air just keeps circulating around the track because it's a street circuit. It doesn't have anywhere to go because it's concrete walls.
Yeah.
So you're having to deal with that, but then also you're dealing with the heat that could be coming from a failed system that's circulating your chest and all your major organs. So it's like it has its drawbacks if it fails, but I didn't hear any stories of it failing for a few of the other drivers, and I think Max in particular. He wanted to, like, at first he felt that it was very uncomfortable.
Okay.
And the pipes, the hoses, they kind of dug into his ribs and his back and his chest, and it was very uncomfortable, he felt. Mm-hmm. And he didn't want to have to deal with that for 90 plus minutes, 2 hours in a Grand Prix. Right. So he opted out of not running it. But he also made another point where he didn't want the FIA to make it mandatory that the drivers had to use them next year if there was a heat declaration put out.
Right.
And I felt that was an interesting thing to say. And I
so they're not confident in it.
Well, I wonder if behind the scenes there's a conversation about that, of making that all the drivers have to wear it, making it mandatory. 'Cause I don't think Verstappen would want to have to do that because it's something that doesn't make him feel comfortable. So.
Well, and you know how particular drivers are, right?
Yes,
so,
100%.
Every little thing, especially with athletes, it's just like that. They're just very, very. It's everything from superstition to comfort, whatever. And in a Formula One car is not a comfortable place.
No,
in the best of circumstances. So
it's not comfortable at all.
Okay, all right. That's interesting, Tim. That is really interesting. What did you think of Fernando Alonso's race? Driver of the day, radio call of the day. This is a car that, it's interesting. Before the weekend, you said, watch out for Aston Martin. They could have something going on, and they did. It was nice to see Fernando get up into the top 10. Lance finishing 13th, not the worst finish for this car, which has been really bad all year and really bad for a couple of years. Let's be honest. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? And does that give them anything? Part of the thing I ask at this point in the year is we have a regulation change coming literally after the last race. What's the point? And there is a point. What is it?
Well, I mean, going to this race in particular, start there with Aston Martin, because I feel that they thought they were going to have a very competitive car coming into this weekend. And, guys like myself, hyped it up. So, it wasn't as good as it was supposed to be. I think, Adam, is basically what I'm trying to say here. However, free practice 1, Alonso was quickest. Free practice 2, both Aston Martins were very competitive. I think they're both in the top six, and then FP3 came along and it all kind of went to hell. And qualifying, it got worse. And I think for Fernando, those are just some incredible qualifying laps that guy put together to put the car where it was, because it had no business being that high up. Even Fernando said he thinks they have the 8th fastest car there, or the 8th fastest team.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, do the math on that one. You have 2 drivers per team. So, yeah. And when they got into the race, I think for Fernando, starting on the soft tire was a good, smart move because of the side of the grid that he was starting on. I think, they had measured the amount of grip that was on that side of the track. And so I think automatically they knew if they ran the medium at the start, he was going to lose a spot right off the hop. He was already going to lose a spot because of the grip level that they had measured. So they were like, let's go with the soft tire because that's going to give us the best chance of holding on to our position. Mm-hmm. And if you're able to get a good tire or something happens in front of you, a good launch, and something happens in front of you, then you can try and move up a spot. And obviously that's what Fernando had done. But then once they came to the pit stop and the slow stop, and then we heard his radio call, later, I think his engineer was like, there's 34 laps to go. And he's like, if you keep talking to me every lap, I'm unplugging the radio.
I loved that. He was full Fernando sass today. It was great.
It's great.
It's vintage Fernando Alonso.
Yes, it's awesome. And then obviously, as Lewis obviously had his brake failure, and Ferrari is somebody we should touch on as well. But when Lewis had that brake failure, Fernando was getting the messages of what's going on with Lewis in front and the time gaps. And like when he first got the time gap, I think it was on, I think it was the second last lap, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the time gap was like 16 seconds or something like that. And then the next time around, it was like 8 seconds. And then each corner, it started coming down by 1. And his engineer's like telling him, and then he's telling him like what strap mode to put the engine in and like where to do this and where to do that and where to deploy all the batteries so he could, hunt down and get Lewis before the checkered flag. And he had just missed him. And so on the radio, he's very upset about it. But I think as a whole, for Aston Martin to get these points this weekend, very crucial, because obviously you're trying to push towards getting 5th in the Constructors. I mean, it's a shame Lance couldn't grab any points, but I felt that Lance actually drove one hell of a race with the soft tire and going as far as he did. He's like over, I think he's over 32 laps on the soft tire, like on the opening stint. It was a very good job by him to keep that tire alive. Not many drivers could do it, and he was one of them who was able to do that. It was just a shame that they didn't get lucky with the safety car, because that was one of the things I think they were really trying to bet on. But yeah, I think for Aston moving forward, I mean, there's going to be some tracks where they're going to be good at again, but there's going to be tracks where it's just going to be really challenging.
I mean, listen, it's nice to see signs of life from the team. That's all it is, right? You want to see some flair of, hey, this can go somewhere, this can be something. And I suppose, Tim, my thinking is, I'm thinking about, he did an interview and he's not done a ton of interviews this year.
Yeah.
But he said, I'll come back next year for sure. And if it's a good car, it'll probably be my last year. If it's a bad car, I'll probably come back one more year just to make sure that I leave it in a good place. Do you believe him?
I do. I think it's him trying to end on like a high note, instead of ending his career on, a sour note. I think, if you go back and you look at 2023 and how things were going for him then and how strong the car was the first half of the season, that's probably something he's looking towards, right? That's probably something where that would make him happy enough to, call it time on Formula One.
Yeah.
And also getting that win. Like he still is trying to achieve that elusive, whatever it is, 33rd win, I think it is, or 34th win. I'll have to look it up. But
right.
He is still after that, final elusive victory. And if they're able to, hit it out of the park with the engine regs and also the car regulations. I mean, you've got Honda, who's incredible at building power units, and you've got Adrian Newey. And if those two are able to kind of really marry and come together and be really successful, I mean, who knows what could happen for him next season, Adam?
Yeah. There's still life there, man. There's still a driver there and an elite driver.
Yeah, I think some people are, when they see Fernando and he doesn't, sometimes a weekend is a struggle, then it's like, oh, well, you kind of hear the voices of oh, well, he's getting kind of old and whatever. And I'm just kind of the guy is still he's still incredible, man. The stuff that guy
Fernando
does, the stuff that he does inside of a race car, Adam, is, it's remarkable. 32 wins is where Fernando Alonso stands at the moment. So 33 would be the number that he would probably want to get to before he retires.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's hoping, because I'd love to see the oldest Formula One win of all time. Last couple of things.
He'd be up there for sure.
He would be.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, he wouldn't be. There was somebody that won in their 50s. But Lewis and Charles, 6 and 7. Before we make any 6-7 jokes, and I don't expect you to know what 6-7 is, but it's hot with the kids right now.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not even gonna.
I'm not even gonna try to explain it because it doesn't mean anything. Not great, but kind of where we expected them to be, and kind of where Charles hinted at, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think after practice, I was a little more optimistic, especially for Lewis, because Lewis looked really good this weekend. And I think, like Adam, he's starting to feel a little more comfortable with the car.
Yep.
Like you can.
Yep.
I am starting to see that, like, Lewis is figuring this out. Like he's getting. It looks like he's starting to get towards like a happy place where, I think he understands the car a little more of where to get the balance from to make himself happy or give himself confidence in the car. Right. I mean, having a brake failure at that speed, Code Brown, like that's it's got to be extremely scary, like extremely scary to have that happen to you. And good on him for keeping it out of the wall, because that's it's a massive braking event. Like when it's happening, when it's occurring. So I think for Lewis as a whole, focus on him first. Like he is definitely looking way more comfortable. This time, obviously, the team had asked Charles and himself to swap positions so Lewis could try and chase down Antonelli, but just not enough for Lewis to try and go and get Kimi. We should talk about Kimi too, because he was freaking amazing. Yep. But for Leclerc, this is a track where he normally goes well at Adam. Like he's really good at these street circuits, and for him to not be very competitive here this weekend, that'll sit in his head for sure. I mean, that'll sit in any driver's head, but I mean, he'll want to make sure he comes out to the USGP and sort of puts in his best performance and gets his best result, because coming away from this and what had happened there is just not good enough for him.
No. Okay, well, let's talk about Kimi. I mean, listen, this is a guy who started the season well, early top 3 finish, and people were like, wow, they really made a good call, and then had a really weak summer, just not good enough. Toto Wolff saying literally, it's not good enough. Today has to feel good for him. It has to validate a lot of what Mercedes does. And it's interesting because it feels like we have to do this every single week. Did they make the right call? But that sort of is the sport. Kimi Antonelli coming back strong at the end of the season. How important is that for him?
Huge. I mean, ever since Adam Toto Wolff had said he was underwhelming following the Italian Grand Prix. I mean, Kimi's he's been on it. I think they've found a setup that works for Kimi, but the thing is that his driving style, since it's a very aggressive one, he can't do everything that he wants to do with the car. So when naturally you've been practicing something your whole career and then you try to implement it into another car and it doesn't work, that's a big issue, because you have to try and retool what you're doing. The fact is that with F1 cars, sometimes you're just stuck with what you got, and sometimes you're stuck with a regulation for XYZ amount of years before you switch over to something that may fit a little bit better with your driving style. With these particular cars, it isn't really something that suits his driving style, which is very aggressive, on the nose, late braking, like a little bit of rotation in the rear of the car. These cars are big, they're heavy, they don't move from side to side fast, like he would be used to in, say, a go-kart. Yeah. So there's that he has to deal with and learn and figure out. And that's something that he has been working on in the simulator and with Bono, trying to figure something out where he can get sort of meet himself halfway with that. In the race, though, on Sunday, very level-headed, smart drive. He had an incredible pass on Charles Leclerc. Was in the second stint there. That was awesome, man. That was really, really good. Yeah. So Adam, like he's showing flashes all season, like you said, and I was really excited for him after this race and excited to see where he can sort of pick up and go. I'm happy to see that he's able to get his confidence back. Sometimes it's really hard.
Well, and that's especially for like an 18, 19-year-old, right?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, very good point. Yeah, 19-year-old. Yeah, that's extremely hard. Yeah.
Okay. So listen, that's
Shout out Oliver Behrman and also Carlos Sainz. They had a really great races.
Yeah, again, nice to see Carlos rolling through it. And I'm just going to pull up your Twitter account here just in case we have any questions, and I'm going to read through here. Michael Klink says, it's another race where I'm reading about how hard it is to overtake. Even with what smaller cars could do in the next regulation, is it time to eliminate some tracks? Do any come to mind for you?
Well, Michael, I don't think the cars are they're going to get a little smaller, but not that much.
They're not. It's the wideness of them, right?
Exactly. It's
that's a safety thing.
Essentially, it's just they're being towed in a little bit. And they're being shrunk a little bit. That's about it. Nothing. We're not going back to 2003, 2004. Those cars and their sizes. Those cars were awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's not really much more they can do. The tracks that they're at, the tracks that they're going to. I mean, it is what it is at this point. A big part of the following now, if we go back to the beginning of 2022 when the regulation first came in, the racing was really good.
Yeah.
It was the fact that now that when the teams develop the aerodynamics more, it creates more dirty air, more turbulence. The tires overheat easier because of it, because the drivers have to use the tire more to try and catch the driver in front of them. They have to lean on it more, and so the tire degs faster, overheats faster. So that's kind of where that passing inability is not necessarily with this particular track. It has a lot more to do with the amount of clean air or dirty air that the drivers have to travel through. And you could hear them on the radio complaining about it as well throughout the race, where Lando's like, hey, I'm getting closer to the cars in front, but there's so much turbulent air, it's really hard for me to get any closer than what I'm already at. I think when you see next season, and this is from a lot of the team personnel that I've heard from and spoken to, you're going to see a different form of racing. Some of them feel that people are actually going to like it. There is going to be they feel there's going to be a lot of passing. Okay. And they feel that won't be basically that some of them don't feel there's going to be a one team that's just absolutely going to run away with things.
Okay, well that's
because
nice.
They feel that one team is going to develop a kick-ass engine, but will struggle on the aerodynamics, where another team will create an incredible car, but not have a great power unit. And there's going to be things like that unsettle the field and each track and different races that we do go to. But the way that the passing is going to occur with DRS being done away with is going to be much different. So I never really got the full explanation as to how it's going to be different. So I'm really curious to see how this is going to work out. But apparently that's what we have in store for us for next year, just better racing. So I'm all for it. I'm all for it if it's better racing.
Cross your fingers, right? Because we do want that. And I get what he's saying. Sometimes with these street courses, man, money talks. It's the reason why traditional F1 fans tend to hate street courses. I don't blame them. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's easier to put it downtown in a city than it is to build an entire new racetrack, especially with the way land prices are around the world. A lot of papaya rules questions, and they're all ones that we've answered before. But I will ask David Butler's question regardless, because I just want a spicy level out of 10. Okay. He says, now that the Constructors is settled, how spicy do you think it'll get down the stretch for the two drivers, Piastri and Norris, out of 10, and a 10 being Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, 2007?
Or what about Rosberg Hamilton 2016?
Oh, Rosberg Hamilton was good too.
Okay, I would say Rosberg Hamilton 2016 was a 10.
That was a 10. You wouldn't call Fernando and Lewis, Fernando holding in the pits and making Lewis late on his pit stop?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
So,
I
so
think
those are our 10s.
But they didn't really they didn't clash. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
you're right.
like
Right.
Rosberg and Hamilton had some proper clashes.
They hated each other. Yeah.
Like, and those were like two good friends. Like they started as like good friends.
Yeah.
And now they like don't even talk. So
yeah, Lewis ducks him in every interview too, eh? Like he doesn't want to talk to him.
No. I would say that's a 10. I am going to say, and this is just a prediction, I'm going to say it gets to a 7.
Okay. Gets to a 7. Ooh.
What do you think
All right.
today was? What do you think today was?
Today was like a 4 or a 5 in F1.
Yeah, I would say it's a 5. Yeah,
it's a flare up though. I don't know if it's a sustained 5, you know?
Yeah, okay, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, you know what I mean? We've seen worse than this, and we've seen it sustained. I'm not of the belief that they hate each other just yet.
Where do you think it gets to then?
I think a lot is being made of it. I think the spiciness needs to come from between Red Bull and McLaren drivers. Like I think that, the intra McLaren thing is one drama, but I do think there was a little bit of back and forth between Lando and Max this weekend. Lando saying that, that's Red Bull. They complain about everything. Max said, if I was in his position, I would say the same thing too. And Red Bull do complain about everything, but it works for them. They win.
Yes.
I think it's a good strategy, right? So
perfect point. Good point.
I don't know. To me, the spiciness is between Lando, Oscar, and Max. And whenever Max is involved, it's good spice, man.
Yeah,
so,
I like that.
So
I like that. That's a good one.
I'll give it a solid 8, especially if it's close.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. I'm gonna go with you on that one as well.
Okay,
because
beautiful.
I agree with you. Whenever Max is involved in any of this stuff, I mean, hey, like if he's got to do what he's got to do, right? And
exactly.
like, look, I mean, he's not going to forget what Lando did from qualifying.
No,
Max remembers everything.
Yeah,
he won't forget that. So if there's going to be an opportunity in qualifying where, whoops, I'm a second and a half in front of you, and there you are, get out of the way now, so I don't get an impeding penalty, but I also ruin your lap. Sorry.
Exactly.
Whoa. So I think there's definitely going to be things like that are 100% going to happen. I mean, I thought this weekend was a big weekend for Verstappen. Hearing, because we didn't talk about this, but hearing from him afterwards. And kind of just downplaying the championship sort of battle in hopes that he has, didn't really, he didn't really commit to like, hey, it's 50-50. He's more like, I need to score big points and whatever. And I'm like, dude, I mean, the team and the car are never usually good here. And you almost got pole, finished second. You needed Oscar to finish further behind. He did. You did score some pretty important points. You took points away from Oscar, and if you can keep doing that for the rest of the season, who knows where you're going to end up. I think when we go to these next races, Adam, Max is going to be hard to beat.
Boy, oh boy.
That was a good season. It's turned into a good season.
If he swoops in and steals this, Tim, oh my God. McLaren fans are going to have to, like myself, are going to have to hide forever. Anyway, listen, we'll leave it for this week. But Tim, great seeing you. I hope you get some sleep. I know you've had long hours, and I'm excited to see what goes. We've got a good last couple of months of this season to go. We
got some meat on the bone, Adam.
That's right.
Meat on the bone.